Welcome back to Thinking Critical Comic Book Podcast. Happy 4th of July. Happy Canada Day. All that good noise. Hope everyone's having a good weekend. Aaron Sparrow is having some technical difficulties. Aaron, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you,
okay,
but your
yes.
audio doesn't sound as good. But I imagine you're back to your phone.
No, I'm on the Yeti, but for whatever reason my headsets aren't working, and I have to listen to you guys through the actual computer speaker.
Hey, if it works, it works, and that's all that matters.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
Aaron's having audio difficulties. Hopefully next time we'll have all that worked out, but he is with us finally. I want to say thank you all for joining us. We've got Tim Lim in the house. He's already busting Mark's chops. I appreciate that.
For the first time ever, it's not my audio that's ruining everything.
The first time. How you doing, Aaron? Are you enjoying the holiday?
So far I'm feeling great.
We had a nice time here. I cooked up some burgers and dogs for the kids, and we had a nice little time. Mark, I know you're doing a steak at home. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I'm gonna pan sear because I'm in an apartment, so I can't have a grill. So instead, I'm gonna pan sear a ribeye in garlic butter with my steak seasoning. Have a baked potato and maybe some steamed broccoli on the side, and just have a nice American red meat dinner.
Did you get your
Steamed broccoli
into the president that allows you to celebrate the 4th of July? Did you get your permission?
I filed for my permission slip months in advance so that I could have a steak on 4th of July. So yes, I got all my paperwork in order.
I did not, but I decided that since we're celebrating American independence from tyranny, I would go ahead and do whatever the hell I want.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to report you to the proper authorities, Aaron.
Well,
All right, Mark. Throw some cheese on that broccoli. Why ruin your diet, man?
Yeah, right. No, I've been hitting the gym since January. I'm actually doing really good and getting in shape. So I'm not going to completely bypass that. Normally I just had meat and potatoes, but I'm going to throw some greens in there just so I can go to the bathroom tomorrow.
Sprinkle a little Velveeta on there, make it palatable. So I went out to the community tab. I said, hey, we're going to do a Q&A. And you guys responded for us. We got 27 questions to answer. And the next, we'll see if it takes us an hour. But we got a lot of stuff to get through. First up, we got Tevye Smoke, a long time viewer of the channel. He's got his own YouTube channel. If you haven't checked out Tevye's content, great guy, covers comic books and all kinds of pop culture. Definitely go check out his channel. This is his question. I'm going to throw this one to Aaron. What's your opinion on the current state of the DC universe? Will Infinite Frontier actually affect the mainstream DC universe?
From a story standpoint, I'm not sure. I imagine they're going to try. I don't think it will affect sales at all. I think that sales are in a free fall, and I don't see that coming back anytime soon, especially with the recent price hikes that they've done, as well as their overdependence on Batman.
All right, there you go. That's what Aaron says. I say Infinite Frontier, they're moving towards a crisis, so I think long-term these won't have a lot of effects because I think they're just going to undo them. They're going to keep the stuff that works. Like if John Kent as Superman works, I think you'll probably see him stick around as Superman a little bit. But they're going to undo a lot of the stuff that they don't feel is taken once they do this next crisis that we're working up to. We've got another question. This is from Mega Spidey Man. And this is for you, Mark. Has every story worth telling with Peter Parker Spider-Man been told? If so, is it time to retire the character?
That's a good question, and that could be applied not just to Spider-Man, but to almost any superhero that's been around as long as he has. And I think that is a challenge for a lot of writers today, is like, how do I tell a Spider-Man story that hasn't been done before? Now, the thing is that you don't necessarily need to worry about telling a Spider-Man story that's never been done before. You can do yet another Spider-Man versus Dr. Octopus or Spider-Man versus Green Goblin story. You just need to find a fresh spin on it. And I think a lot of today's writers, I don't know, maybe they lack that vision. Now with Peter Parker, yeah, there's plenty of stories. I mean, my personal stopping point with Spider-Man stories, because they just went I didn't like the stuff that was written after. I always the Clone Saga and the Ben Reilly saga. That's my personal stopping point on Spider-Man. Is I feel like that gargantuan, like 2,000-page epic took Spider-Man as far as I wanted him to go, and it ends in a good stopping point where Spider-Man defeats Norman again. Ben Reilly dies and disintegrates, and Peter realizes that he was the real Spider-Man all along, and it reaffirms his resolve to be Spider-Man and, great power and responsibility and all that. He and Mary Jane. The only thing I hate about that ending is that May Parker, their daughter, they think that May's dead. May gets taken away. We never find out what happens to her in that continuity. But it still feels like a good, solid ending point. I've liked some Spider-Man stories written since then, but a lot of it is just full of really bad retcons, especially like the John Byrne era of Volume 2, which I hate, Amazing Spider-Man Volume 2, and then, everything with J. Michael Straczynski's run, and then Dan Slott, whatever, just gets bad. I think that there's still potential to tell good Spider-Man stories. You just got to get a good writer on it. I mean, heck, they were retreading ground in the 70s and the 80s on Spider-Man, but they just had good villains. Not good villains. They had good writers who were able to find new, fresh angles on it. So it can still be done.
I think you could bring Pellegrini in tomorrow and have a better Spider-Man book than you've had in decades.
I agree with that.
I have actually a follow-up question for you, Mark, in regards to Spider-Man. If you don't mind, Wes.
No, go on for it.
Okay, at the end of the Clone Saga, when they killed Ben Reilly, do you think that was a cheap move to just get them out of the mess they had painted themselves into, or do you think it would have been better if they had just depowered Ben Reilly and kept him around as a brother figure for Peter, who kind of understood the life that he went through, and you could have done some really interesting stories there?
I think that. Yeah, I think that's what they should have done. In a perfect world, that's what they would have done, and I wouldn't have lost interest in Spider-Man comics, and there wouldn't have been a whole bunch of bad comics after that. That's what I would have wanted to happen, but they didn't. I mean, they have such an easy out too if they wanted to bring him back. Like, oh, you saw you literally see Ben Reilly after he gets killed by the Goblin Glider disintegrate into what looks like sand. What's the easiest out for that? Like, oh, that wasn't Ben Reilly. That was the Sandman posing as Ben Reilly and working for Green Goblin. So easy, but they never went that angle. They brought him back recently, which is cool and all, but it's just, yeah, I would have loved to see Ben Reilly around, because the whole point during the Clone Saga was that they were trying to make everyone hate Peter Parker. They did that whole I am the Spider thing. They turned him into such a mood-swinging, insane jerk. Whereas Ben Reilly was acting like the Peter Parker from like the 60s and the 70s and the 80s that we all loved. It was the fun-loving, quipping Peter Parker. They're trying to make you love Ben and hate Peter. And that backfired on them. People wanted Peter and didn't like Ben. And so I feel like the killing off of Ben at the end of that arc was more of an editorial mandate in reaction to everybody's negative responses to Ben. Rather than something that would have best suited the ongoing plot, which would have been to keep Ben around as a supporting character in Peter's stories, which I would have loved to see. The highlights of the Clone Saga are the moments when Ben and Peter are interacting with each other, and instead of trying to kill each other, they're playing off each other as two Peters, quipping back and forth and having a good time and acting like bros. I would have loved to have seen more of that. Unfortunately, it just didn't work out that way.
All right. Next question. This is from the live viewers. We got Bolby145. Why don't you think comic series like Hellboy or Chew have caught on like many DC or Marvel comics? Very rarely do indie comic characters or series catch on like the big DC or Marvel comics. You get a Walking Dead or a Saga here and there, but Hellboy certainly has its own audience. It's a very popular character. It spawned out 3 movies at this point. I imagine there's probably been a cartoon adaptation. So Hellboy is quite popular. I don't think Chew's taken off quite like that, but you just don't get the marketing effort, the cross promotion that you're going to get with a DC or Marvel. You have a lot of opportunities to make your characters bigger by tying them in with a Spider-Man or a Batman and stuff like that.
Wes, there have been some animated universe Hellboy stories, and they were directed by Tad Stones.
There you go. So absolutely. So I would say Hellboy is a good example of what you can accomplish on the indie market and really have your own IP out there that's doing very well, but not quite as well as Batman.
Yeah, I think it's tough when you don't have a shared universe of support around it. It becomes difficult to market those characters on the same level.
Yep.
Yeah, and you also just don't have
all right, guys.
Disney and Fox corporations. Yeah, sorry. Okay.
Mark, we got 30 questions here. We got people.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'll zip it.
All right, Aaron. The Mighty Derp asks, how long can Diamond distribution last without Marvel and DC? They are a wholesaler of Marvel.
Yeah, two schools of thought on this. One, for my shops, we buy far more toy and game products from Diamond than we do comics at this point. So depending on the way that the market shifts, hopefully many comic shops have pivoted away from new comics as the main source of their income, because it's not sustainable. I think it was Perch who said, like, you shouldn't have any, what was it, like maybe any more than 10% of your shop devoted to new comics. Maybe it was Pele. I don't know. Somebody said
Pele.
Yeah, I thought that was actually really sound advice, because new comics are dying on the vine. They don't have the talent behind them. They don't have the money behind them to get the best talent, and they're just sort of churned out as propaganda pamphlets in a lot of cases. So as far as that goes, if Diamond can pivot and carry other things to shops and provide them with other products that sell better,
like back issue comics.
No, like toys and games, action figures.
No, they could do back issues though. That is one area that they're definitely exploring.
Oh, that is true. Like we'll see how it goes. I mean, they're not the best at distributing new comics, so I'm not sure how back issues will go, but we'll see. But I think there is a chance for them to survive, perhaps smaller, leaner, more hungry, and maybe this is the kick in the ass that Diamond needed.
Ben Lutz, how would you guys write Batman if you were assigned him in either the main title or Detective Comics? I would write him as a loner detective. If he wasn't doing detective work, you wouldn't have a story for me. That's just me. I'm not a professional writer. How would you write him, Mark?
My favorite Batman stories, we talked about this before. My favorite run of Batman stories is from the 70s. The Denny O'Neil stuff, Neil Adams stuff, the Englehart stuff, the Len Wein stuff, like Strange Apparitions. And I love 70s in Batman. And the way Batman was written back then is that every issue generally was a one-shot. And if it continued, it was like maybe a two-parter. Now, there are overarching storylines like Strange Apparitions from Englehart's run, where like Hugo Strange was the overarching villain, but each storyline was a one-shot. You had a Joker story, a Penguin story, a Deadshot story, a two-parter with Dr. Phosphorus or something, but that was it. I would write villain-centric stories such as that. That's the strategic approach I would take, where each story you're going to get a Two-Face story, you're going to get a Firefly story, or Firefly teaming up with Killer Moth story, because I always love it when those two get together. I would use some of the old school villains no one remembers anymore, like Zebra Man and Polka Dot Man and Signal Man, who I actually really like, and no one ever uses him anymore. There's so many great villains out there, and it doesn't all need to be a Scott Snyder 12-part epic every time you want to use the Joker. It doesn't have to be a huge event. The Joker can be in a one-shot story, and it's fine. Paul Dini had a great run of Detective that was just nothing but one-shots and two-parters. So that's how I do things. I would just return to the classic villains who I like. I would keep the stories short and sweet, 1 or 2 issues, but have an overarching theme that brings it all together, so you have that hook that keeps you coming back.
All right, Aaron, what would you do?
Well, first of all, Mark, what you don't understand about Scott Snyder's run is that if you're going to tell a Joker story, it has to start in the millennia before time. Cosmic forces, preordained this from the very beginning.
I wish I had
woolly mammoth at the end of times. He entered a gate, and that basically set up the timeline for when Joker was going to return to destroy the Bat Totem.
Yeah. Every time I hear about that kind of shit, I wish I had more than 2 wrists to slash, because I just want to die.
It is. It's what I call up your own ass writing. So I would. I'm going to pretty much agree with Mark here. I would kind of take it back to basics. I think the best model of Batman for me is Batman the Animated Series, which is very much what Mark is talking about. Done in one stories a lot of the time. Some 2-parters here and there, and then sometimes you get an overarching storyline. But you want to have a good entry point. You want to have people be able to jump in and pick up one single issue and kind of like be caught up with what's going on with your mythos. So if you can pull that off, I think that's the way to go. I think that simpler Batman stories, kind of a return to basics is what's needed, and you need to. Batman needs to get his comeuppance every once in a while. The idea that Batman is always infinitely prepared for everything is neat for a little while, but eventually it just makes the stories kind of dull, because that Batman already has a plan for this. No matter what scheme the villains come up with, Batman's already prepared. And you need to have him taken by surprise sometimes and then figure it out through ingenuity on the spot, as opposed to, he has 87 plans in place for this one event.
Stephen Villalta asks, what happened to Image Comics to lose its identity and turn itself into Netflix bait? First of all, I think really good comic artists are expensive. And I think that Netflix bait, they're looking for materials that they can cash in on when it gets picked up for adaptation, and they would like it to be cheap. And I think that's what happened to Image Comics. It's no longer like the cool place for the most cutting edge imagery, or images as far as graphic artistry and whatnot. It's just kind of really boring packaged stuff that is a pitch for a streaming show with really bad art a lot of times.
They went to what Boom's model was for the first 10 years of its existence.
Yeah, I guess the short answer is Mark Millar happened, and that was even before Netflix. That was just where every book he was churning out was like, hey, could you see this being a movie? Hollywood executives. It was just a proof of concept movie pitch factory. Like, okay, we're going to do Nemesis. What if the superhero was actually the supervillain? We're going to do Wanted. We're going to do all these same books that could very easily just be the storyboards for a movie and not an actual comic. And that's kind of where Image started going wrong.
I don't think that Millar wrote Wanted that way. I think that he wrote that as just a very, over-the-top superhero story. But I think once it got picked up for a movie and they altered it and turned it into something that was more palatable for general audiences, then it was like, oh, okay, well, I'll just take everything and kind of like scale it back. So because this is the
yeah.
Steven also asked, to be a good writer, do you need to specify in a genre in particular or experiment with different genres?
I would say that that's entirely up to you. I mean, obviously, there's some people that flourish in certain genres. You take your Stephen King, even James Tynion. He's
Ed Brubaker.
Ed Brubaker. Does kind of like the noir stuff. That's his specialty. That's what he's passionate about. So I think if you lean into things that you're passionate about, you'll do well. If that's only one genre, then do your best in that genre. If you've got many different stories to tell across many different genres, then I think lean into that. But always go with what you feel strongest about first, because that's what you're going to put the most effort into.
All right, BedM live viewer. Why are modern writers afraid of writing aspirational heroes?
I think we're just too cynical I don't know, culturally, it's very Gen X. It's very trendy to be cynical and just hate everything right now and be apathetic. So everyone just wants the superhero to fail. That's the storyline everybody wants to tell is like, Superman failed to save Lois. Superman didn't save the city. Oh, how is he going to react to this? And so we just get all these stories over and over again of these heroes failing. Everyone looks back to like Watchmen,
Watchmen and The Dark Knight Returns is my explanation.
And instead of those stories being unique and special for what they were at the time, now they're the blueprints that everybody uses to tell their superheroes now. Like, you shouldn't be using a deconstructionist story as the blueprint to tell your sincere superhero story. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. And now when every single superhero story is a deconstructionist about how they fail, then we have no aspirational hero stories anymore, and it's all just gotten so bland and tiresome and cynical.
Absolutely. So this one is an Aaron Sparrow special. This is from Tevye Smoker once again. Aaron, what's your opinion on the Superman and Lois show on the CW?
I have no opinion. I have not watched it. I
don't either.
CW shows a long time ago, and it would be really difficult to get me back. I've heard that it's better. I've heard that it doesn't lean into the same territory that the other CW show do, but I at this point I just don't have the interest.
Mark, did you watch it?
The only CW superhero show I watched was the first season of The Flash. I liked it enough, but not enough to go back for more. And just from what I've seen of all the other CW shows, I feel like I made the right choice.
Yeah, within 2 seasons of every CW show, they turn into I don't know, just like weird Kardashian level interpersonal conflicts instead of superhero stories. So yeah. I don't really give them a chance personally. We got AL. All right, Mark, how do I motivate myself to write when I don't feel like it because life is currently crushing me? P.S. I'm a hobbyist. I'm not doing this for the money.
Well, I mean, it all comes down to drive and motivation. So, I mean, I'm a hobbyist too. I have a day job that keeps. Yeah. I didn't for the longest time though. So, I mean, I have a day job. I got to work 40 hours a week. I'm always just absolutely beat by the time I get home. But I try to write every single day. Even before I was making money writing, I spent 10 years writing blogs and writing for other websites and doing it every single day. You're not going to get any better if you don't practice. So you got to write every day. I write during my lunch break. I write when I get home from work. I write on the weekends every time I can find an opportunity. And I know that's not as easy for everybody, especially if they've got a family, if they got a wife and kids, and so that comes first. But even if you're only writing for an hour a day, that's something. It's like practicing the piano. Even if you're only practicing 30 minutes a day, you're 30 minutes better than you were yesterday. So you just you
Do you
got to
have a
find
picture
the
of
time
Dan
and energy
Slott
to
on
it.
your mirror, like looking back at you,
Right?
challenging you to be better?
Right? Sometimes like, hey, I may not be great, but I'm better than this guy. So yeah, just find whatever it takes to inspire you, even if it's just for a few minutes a day. Know that it's like going to the gym. You're 30 minutes stronger than you were yesterday. So just hang in there.
Debbie Smolka asks, Aaron Sparrow, what's your opinion on Star Wars: The Bad Batch?
I've
Are you
watched
still in?
I've watched up through the episode where they rescue the baby Rancor. It's fine. It's not as engaging to me as Clone Wars was, but Clone Wars took a good season to kind of get me to warm up to it. So I think that it has.
I think it was halfway through the third season, I finally liked Clone Wars.
Yeah, I think that it takes shows a while to find their footing. It takes them at least a season, generally, sometimes more. Not every show gets that, but I think that it's fun. I think that it has potential. It's definitely more Star Wars than the sequel trilogy, which is easy to beat. But it's Dave Filoni, and he worked under George Lucas. He's got a pretty solid idea of what makes a good Star Wars story. I think that it has a lot of potential.
Uh-oh, did I do something? I think I did. Where is this? BJ Brown asks, what's your favorite ship character and lightsaber from Star Wars? Definitely, it's got to be the Millennium Falcon, Han Solo, and I don't know. I guess the green lightsaber. Luke's my favorite Jedi character. What are you going with there, Aaron?
My favorite ship is Rey and Kylo. No. No. My favorite ship is Slave One. So go ahead and cut this out and redub it with Boba Fett's starship. That's my favorite ship. I just always loved the bounty hunter stuff when I was a kid, and I had that toy and was just like, I had the Millennium Falcon too, but at that point I'd had the Millennium Falcon for a couple of years, so it was old hat by the time Slave One came out. So I just like that it seemed like a fast, kind of nimble ship for combat. So that was my favorite ship. My favorite character, God, that's tough to say. I love so many of the characters, but I think that I've got to go with Luke, just because he was the entry point to the entire story. And my favorite lightsaber, I'm gonna say that my favorite lightsaber is Revan's.
Nice. What about you, Mark?
My
I know you're a Star Wars guy.
Yeah, so my favorite ship is the Slave One. I'm sorry, Boba's ship, as Lego calls it.
Boba's starship.
Boba's starship. Yeah, I like the Slave One. I like the way it moves. That it has to rotate. It's got kind of a gyroscopic thing going. It's just a cool looking ship. My favorite character is Boba Fett because I'm such a normie, but the majority of my Star Wars collection is Boba Fett stories. I just like the bounty hunters, and he's my favorite of them all. And then I guess my favorite lightsaber is Luke's green lightsaber that he built himself. I just thought that, oh shit, a green lightsaber, that's really cool. Oh, Luke built that one? That's even cooler. So there we go.
Jorge El Nina Espinoza asks, when the X-Men come to the MCU, what era do you want them to adapt? So this is going to be difficult, to where you're going to have all this MCU that's happened, but you've had these mutant heroes that are there that have never engaged or really announced themselves.
Yeah,
so
that's
you're
a good
probably
question.
going to have to bring them back from like the Shi'ar Galaxy or something, maybe.
Yeah, it's like, where were you guys? Yeah, I know. Obviously, I think it's a good opportunity to start over fresh and maybe give us an X-Men movie that is the actual X-Men First Class. None of that Havoc stuff and the wrong Angel, or Darwin. None of that stuff. Give us Cyclops and Marvel Girl and Iceman and Beast. Give us an Angel. Give us the real First Class for just a movie, and then build us up towards. It doesn't have to be the correct John Byrne era and the correct Australian era going in that order, but don't start with Wolverine. See it as an opportunity to actually start from the beginning. Now, if they were there in the MCU all along and just never said or did anything, like that would be kind of awkward. I don't know if they can
Do you
pull
think they're
that
gonna have
off.
to do an event where all of a sudden like people's X genes are activated all at the same time and all of a sudden
I
they're
think
mutants?
at this point that's what they would have to do. I don't think they have an option. You know, they have to bring mutants into this universe somehow, and that's kind of having some sort of event that awakens all the mutants is what they'd have to do. But then you could have some who've been there, like Wolverine could have been there and doing Black Ops stuff for the Canadian government, Department H, all along. We just didn't know about it. There's opportunities.
Marigo and somebody that normally is here with us, so I appreciate you showing up. General writing question from Mark and Aaron. What's the difference between making characters edgy or dark to explore their reactions and doing so out of spite because you don't understand it? What's the difference, Aaron? Is it professionalism?
I think it's I think it's absolutely professionalism. I think it's looking at a character, putting them in situations, and then determining how they would react based on the. Especially if you're writing your own characters, then you can basically make them whatever it is that you want to be. If you're going in and you're writing established characters like a Batman, he has a character that's very well defined. So what you need to do is you need to put him in new situations and then think to yourself, based on his history, how would he react to this? And what kind of situation can I put him in where I can push him to, where he basically have to think as a writer, you have to think like the Joker. How do you get him to break his one rule? Now, you don't want him to break his one rule, but you want to push him to the edge to see,
He's got a choice.
Do it. But once you break a character, you can't put them back together generally. Once Superman crosses that line in Man of Steel and breaks Zod's neck, he's forever tainted as, through the rest of the series. Doesn't matter what he does from then on. So I think that, you have to be able to bend the characters but not break them. I hope that's, basically, I think my advice, if I can just distill it down, is always write from the perspective of the character. Don't put your own politics, your own agenda, the way that you would react. Don't write yourself. Look at the character and say, what are their defining characteristics? What would they do in this situation?
Paul Bowler asks, modern DCU or pre-crisis DCU, which do you prefer and why, Mark?
Which crisis?
My reaction is neither. I like post-crisis on Infinite Earth DCU up until my dropping point for Batman is No Man's Land, and my DC comics reading is Batman centric. But yeah, I mean, I like the post-crisis DC all the way up, I guess, through 0 Hour. That kind of just filled with things. Up until the 2000s, pre-Identity Crisis, I guess. That's talking about dark and edgy comics that just ruined everything. I kind of feel like Identity Crisis was where DC just kind of went off on this stupidly dark and edgy and middle schooler tangent of comics. But that's my reading experience as someone. So that's my favorite era. But for certain runs, I mean, I like Swamp Thing from the 70s through the 80s. Yeah, so I love that era of DC comics. I love 70s Batman comics. It's kind of a little bit of this and that. But my favorite, just for the DC universe as a whole, was post-crisis all the way up until the Edgelord shit.
All right, Zemo X2 asks, what are your thoughts on The Rock being cast as Black Adam? I think it's perfect. I think he would have been better as Shazam. But being Black Adam, he'll bring a lot of charisma to the character, will bring a lot of notoriety to the series. I think it's a tragedy that it's taken so long, but I'm glad it's in production. We are finally going to get to see, it appears we're going to get to see Hawkman and the other JSA characters as well. So I think it's great casting. It sucks that it maybe wasn't the launching part of the DCEU. Perhaps they wouldn't be in the quagmire that they are today, where they can't figure out what they want to be. So I think it's really great casting, personally. All right, we've got some more questions in here. All right, also, this is Zemo X2 again. Do you think it was a good idea to bring back Norman Osborn as the big bad of Clone Saga?
That saga had so many big bads, it almost felt like a joke by the time they got to Norman, where it's like, oh, such and such was behind it all along, but oh, the Jackal was the one who was manipulating them. Oh, but who was manipulating the Jackal? And just keeps going up this ladder until ultimately gets to, hi, it's me, Norman. I'm back from the dead. I was behind it all along. It became comical at the end of the Clone Saga. But it did feel, like a big deal. If you're going to bring the ultimate Spider-Man villain back, who was the head honcho behind all this, who was the Blofeld of this entire universe, the author of all your miseries, Mr. Parker, then yeah, it might as well be Norman. So I was kind of fine with it. At that point, the Clone Saga had me laughing more than anything. So I was okay with it being Norman.
All right, Aaron. Do you think there's much overlap between novel and comics audiences? Do you think a spin-off comic set in a novel series could be successful? I think it has been successful. Sandman, right?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think there's a lot of crossover there. I mean, readers are readers. Obviously, not everybody who enjoys novels is going to enjoy comics, and vice versa. Some people just read comics. A lot of comic writers, unfortunately, nowadays seem to have just read comics, which I think is why everything feels so repetitive and kind of regurgitated. I don't think that they have broadened their horizons enough in that regard. But yeah, I think there is crossover, and I think that we have seen some successful jumps back and forth. DC's pretty much banking on it right now with their young adult novels that are not doing well. But yeah, I think that it definitely can be successful. I think that it has, and I think that Wes's example of Sandman is pretty dead on.
By the way, I write novels, including They'll Get You, and I have an Amazon page. So someone who likes my comics, please read my novels.
There we go. We got a cheap plug. Golden State Warriors asks, what is your current favorite indie comic? I'd have to say it's TMNT The Last Ronin. That thing is dynamite. It's so damn good. Do you have a favorite, Mark?
Of an indie book right now, I mean, it's probably The Last Ronin. As much as I don't like what's going on in the current mainstream IDW Ninja Turtles book, they've got The Last Ronin going on, which is doing like 10 times the sales of Sophie Campbell's TMNT book, which is telling you which TMNT book people are actually preferring right now, the one that actually reads like a damn Ninja Turtles book. So yeah, The Last Ronin is kind of the only, it's one of the only current comics that I'm reading at the moment. Oh, but I also have enjoyed Doug Tenaple's Earthworm Jim. I got Volume 2, Fight the Fish, which he published back in February. So I'm enjoying that as well. So yeah,
also, I would also recommend Orphan and the Five Beasts from James Stokoe. That one's really good. Do you have an indie comic you're enjoying, Aaron?
I like this book called Common America quite a bit. That one's pretty good.
Never heard of it.
No, I mean, I have to go the same route with you. I think that The Last Ronin is everything that's good about comics and everything that I love about it, kind of distilled right now. It's really one of the only titles on the stand that feels like the sort of like interesting adventure that we used to get in comics, as opposed to characters sitting around in coffee shops.
And the last thing I'll say about indie comics, it wrapped up earlier this year, but if you can get your hands on We Live from the Miranda Brothers from Aftershocks, that thing is amazing, and that is definitely going to be something important in the years ahead. They're definitely not going to stop that because it was very successful and it was great. Golden State Warriors again. Who do you think will write the next DC Crisis? James Tynion. All right. What would you say are the best ongoing titles from the Big Two? Mark, you don't read the Big Two right now, correct?
No, so I can't answer this question.
Aaron, what's the best comics going on from the Big Two right now?
From Marvel, it's Daredevil by Chip Zdarsky, and from DC right now, it's Batman by Tynion.
All right, so I disagree on the Batman. I will go with Robin or Nightwing as far as DC, and at Marvel, it's Beta Ray Bill is a really good miniseries from Dana Warren Johnson, and it's Daredevil. Daredevil's the right answer. That's the best one out of all of them.
Actually, Jesse Snyder's been trying to get me to read Beta Ray Bill.
You would love it, man. It's really cool. You would definitely like it.
I'll have to check it out.
Golden State Warriors, this is his last question. He's got some duplicates. You'll hear some more questions that you were asked earlier. He had like 10 questions. Are you excited for Spider-Man Beyond? What do you think will be the state of Spider-Man will be at the end of Spencer's run? I am not excited for Spider-Man Beyond. I don't think writers by committee generally work. It certainly failed in the relaunching of Uncanny X-Men before the Hickman era X-Men stuff. With that being said, what's going to happen at the end of Nick Spencer's run, I believe, based on the cover and kind of the feel that we got from the comic, is that Peter and MJ will be married again. I don't know if they're going to undo one more day or they're going to go down and have a shotgun wedding at the courthouse. One way or the other, they're going to be married, and as soon as that happens, Peter either will die or he's almost going to die, precipitating Ben Reilly coming in to replace him for this Spider-Man Beyond arc. Those are my feelings on that one. So I'm not exactly looking forward to that personally.
There's no writers listed for that event that excite me, so I will not be picking it up.
I like Seb Wells, what he's doing in what is it? In Hellions, I think is really good.
No, I think that Zeb is fairly strong, but he's paired with a lot of people who I don't care for. So it's going to be written, like you said, it's going to be written by committee, and I don't like most of the committee, so not a fan. And it doesn't seem like it's generating any real excitement because I don't have anybody talking about it or asking to add it to their poll. Actually, I've had a lot of Amazing Spider-Man readers indicate that once Spencer's run is over, they want to drop the book.
All right, Tevya asks, do you believe the X-Men Hickman era is basically now finished? Because if that's the case, that's Jim. It is finished. We covered it on a video that dropped this morning. Jordan White, the group editor, talked about it. He's like, hey, listen, we're beyond whatever Hickman's doing. If you want to read Hickman stuff, you got to read his miniseries. You're going to see him less and less. That's unfortunate. We've got Nagor mad. I just now left a question. Is it too late? It is not. I've got your question. Is Pano layout something the writer has to add into the script, or is it mostly left to the artist to figure out? What have you guys going to have to? You've done the comic book before. Which one is it? Who wants to take that one?
I mean, layout. So I when I write a page, I do break down the panels. I'll say panel 1, this is what's happening, and then I include the dialogue and the sound effects, and I'll break it down to like 5 panels or 4 panels or 3 panels of what's happening in each panel and what they're saying in each panel. But that's as far as it goes for layouts. I might include reference images for poses or expressions or reactions for Tim to use as a guideline. But everything else is up to the artist, up to Tim to figure out how to lay it out, because he's the artist. Visually, he knows better than I do of what the page should look like. So, that's I say what happens in each panel and how many panels there are, but the rest is all Tim.
Is that the normal case for you as well? Well, Aaron, I know you were the editorial oversight of an entire line of comics. Is that basically what you saw?
Yeah, that's basically. We didn't really use the Marvel method. It was very kind of structured. You break down for your writer the amount of panels that you want and what you want to happen in those panels. From there, the artist, they have the freedom to alter that. If they have a better way to tell the story, they can alter that page to their what they feel is the best layout, and then you go back and you do a lettering draft where you make sure that everything matches up. So that's the way that I work. I work basically the same way that Mark does. I provide references. Even as an editor, if the writer didn't do that, if they requested something specific and they didn't put in like a link, I'll put that into the script for the artist so they have some reference.
Ale asked,
as your editor, you should be doing that as the writer.
Ale asked, do you think every story that can be told has been told by writers of our favorite Western comic characters? Well, basically every basic story has been told, but certainly not. I think the follow-up to this was also, should Western comic characters have an endpoint like manga? What are your thoughts on that one, Aaron? I know that you've adapted manga as well.
I mean, I think there's new stories to be told. I think that you just have to be handing the book to writers who have stories to tell, who aren't just, regurgitating the same stories that they read and trying to put, some new. Like the big problem with Marvel right now is that they're just going back and they're redoing every crossover that they've done in the past. We're about to get Inferno, and that it's
World
not
War She-Hulk.
Yeah, you're not. That it's not going to be as good. What they're counting on is they're counting on the brand recognition of that event, but the problem with that is you are attaching yourself to an event that is far superior to the one that you're going to deliver. So you're already creating a comparison between what you're going to do and what's been done in the past. And you just can't compete with the stuff that was done in the past because those stories were better, the writing was better, the editorial was better, the focus was on telling good, compelling stories, adventures with interesting characters. And that's not what goes on now. Now it's a lot of political messaging with, wrapped in a superhero skin.
Nerdette from Nerdette's Newsstand. What's up with your obsession with Punchline? I'm not obsessed with Punchline. You are. I think Punchline's a shitty character. I specifically don't read the stories. I've checked out. When I read my Joker comic from James Tynion and Guillaume March, and I've got that stupid Punchline story in the back from James Tynion, Sam Johns, and it used to be Mir Condolfo. There's a new artist now. I skip it now because it sucks. The character is lame. It's based a Harley. It's a Harley Quinn knockoff, which was already a Joker knockoff.
How do you know that's not asking about Bill Williams' Punchline?
I thought you were really hating on him right for a second there. Sorry.
Yeah, come on.
Punchline in Batman, not Punchline.
Okay, yeah.
I know she's asking about that because she busts my nuts every time I talk about the character on the channel. Nugget Buster Nerdette. That's what they should call her. Pawan Sidhu, what comic book hero do you relate to the most? Dick Grayson. Do you see yourself in, and can you relate to any villains as well? I could definitely relate to a lot of villains. I'll shoot this one over to you, Mark. Who's your favorite? Who do you relate to, and can you relate to villains?
I mean, yeah, you can. I don't know if there's any particular character I necessarily.
If I was going to be a villain, I'd be Arcade. I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah, Arcade. I mean, at least he has fun with his job. He never wins, and he spends a lot of money doing it, but he has a lot of fun. So yeah, okay, if you're going to be a villain and enjoy it, but I don't know. There's that meme of the person looking at another character and going like, oh, wow, they're just like me. And I don't want to set myself up for that, where it's like, oh, I look at this character, oh, it's Superman. He's just like me. Like, I don't know. I don't necessarily directly relate to anybody, because then you're getting to the point where you're projecting yourself onto another character, or you're if you as a writer, you're doing a self-insert, and I try not to do that. So I deliberately try not to necessarily relate myself to another individual, but there are aspects of characters I relate to. And yeah, you can relate to a villain, but just make sure that, they're still a villain, so they can still do evil things. It doesn't reflect on you.
Aaron, who do you relate to, and why is it Gimli?
Because I'm a natural sprinter, but I'm wasted. I'm wasted on cross country. No, I mean, I tend to agree with Mark. I relate to different characters, different aspects of different characters, but I don't think that there's one hero that I specifically, identify with. I think that's narcissism. I think that's part of the problem with the kind of representation that we're getting in comic books right now, is that it's basically appealing to a narcissistic mindset that I have to see myself in every aspect of this character, and that's why certain characters aren't allowed to have flaws. They're not allowed to be interesting, because they have to represent the audience. And if you gave them any flaws, you're saying that about every member of that audience. And I think it's ridiculous. I mean, there's things about Miles Morales and Into the Spider-Verse that I related to. I relate to Nightwing in a lot of ways. There's things about Captain America that I relate to. So as far as heroes go, it's a mishmash of different things. As far as villains go, it's Doctor Doom all the way.
Absolutely. Cult Phil video. Why do you only read Cape Comics? I don't. I just named off a bunch of indie things. I'm doing the comic book recommendations in the community tab again. I happen to cover mostly Big 2 comics because that's where the interest is, and that's what people come to the channel for. I personally enjoy my comics that are at Vault, Aftershock, Mad Cave. There's another one. Red Storm. If you like John Carpenter, that's all they put out are like adapted John Carpenter stories that never made it to movies that are really good comic books. So there's a lot of great indie stuff. In fact, I would say Boom is outperforming DC and Marvel right now. They're kind of kicking their asses, in my opinion. Figure drawing. When you guys write, how much does good or bad art affect your motivation and or style? Well, Mark, you deal with one of the worst artists, in comic books. How much does his bad art affect you?
No, yeah. Oh God, Tim, what are you doing? Oh no, I'm fortunate. the artists that I've gotten to work with, Timothy Lim, Matt Weldon, they're all superb artists. When we commission a lot of Japanese artists and we post their arts on our Twitter feed all the time for Common America and Black Ops, and we've got so amazing artists like Kafun and Sunafuki. We've had friends of ours who are great artists who have done pieces for us, such as Genzo Man. Oh, he's great. Luke Weber has done a bunch of art for us, and Luke Weber's awesome. I'm looking forward to his Forsaken Gods comic, which is fulfilling right now. No, we're fortunate that we just know a lot of great artists. When I've worked on those TMNT fanzines with editor Andrew Modine, and I've gotten to work with a lot of the Mirage Ninja Turtles artists like Jim Lawson and Dan Berger. So I've got to see my TMNT stories drawn by actual Mirage Ninja Turtles artists. So I mean, I don't know. I've never had the misfortune, but that's the thing is like when you're working, I guess if you're a writer working for like the Big 2, you don't know who's going to draw your story. You're submitting your story to an editor, and then the editor selects the artist, and then all of a sudden you've got your story being drawn by, I don't know, Erica Henderson, and you're like, oh well, that I might as well have just thrown that script away. But yeah, I mean, I'm lucky.
Aaron, so you work with James Silvani a lot. He's a terrific artist. He's got a certain style. Do you make sure that your story is going to adapt to his art style as well as it possibly can?
I mean, I do Disney stuff with him, so yeah, absolutely. That's his wheelhouse. So I don't really have to do a lot to I don't have. There's not a lot of things that I have to do to adapt my style to his, because we're essentially doing Disney stories together. So I'm telling a Disney story, he's drawing a Disney story. It meshes together pretty well. But I've been fortunate to work with a lot of different artists in an editorial capacity. Rolo Malata, Marcela Ferreira, who's drawing at Marvel right now. He's doing Amazing Spider-Man. And actually, I think that I'm looking at his work over there, and I know that he's under a time crunch, because I've seen what Marcelo can do when he's given enough time to really shine. And I don't feel like a lot of the talent at Marvel is being given that opportunity. I think they're being rushed, and the page rates that they're making, it's like, well, how much time can I really devote to this based on what I'm making? Unfortunately. But I've been very fortunate to work with a lot of different artists, a lot of different styles, and like guys like Roger Langridge, who are amazing. So I think that it definitely, if you've got a talented artist who's turning in stuff that you love, it's definitely going to motivate you more than somebody who's just phoning it in on your script.
All right, so F off, well read. We're going to do an entire video on your question here, so please, Mark and Aaron, don't dive too far into this, because we're actually going to do an entire 1-hour video on this. How do you balance dialogue with action in your stories?
Mark, go ahead.
Oh, how do I balance dialogue with action? What I do is, same way I do any dialogue is, I'll write, the whole spiel way too much, and then I'll trim it down in the edits in the when I complete the first draft or the second draft, and then Tim will dial it down more. But usually when it comes to action, I try to have as little dialogue and just let the art tell the story. If people are fighting, they're not going to be, they're not going to be quoting, paragraphs back and forth to each other. I know I like Claremont's X-Men comics. That's the way things were done back in the day. Nowadays, not so much. Look at manga. Characters very rarely talk back and forth to each other when they're fighting. It's just time to let the art tell the story, generally when it comes to action.
All right, Phantom, and you're going to get way more than that. We're going to do an entire 1-hour video on that. Phantom of the Night asks, what character runs would you recommend someone look at if they wanted to write a more traditional superhero character? There are a couple from Robert Venditti that I'm exceptionally fond of. One would be his Exo Man of War at Valiant Comics. I think that is brilliant, specifically the first 14 issues. I think you're going to find something really special there. Also, his run on Hawkman really is the blueprint on how you can take a traditional character, incorporate them into modern comics, and really execute it well. Another run that's more current, but I think it does Superman well, is Peter Tomasi, Patrick Gleason on Superman. You can also read the Dan Jurgens stuff on Action. I think they all work really well together in Super Sons as well. Aaron, if you had to recommend like a run for a traditional superhero character for people to get inspired, what would you recommend?
I'd go back and I'd read, any Peter David Spider-Man. I'd also recommend Peter David's Hulk back in the day. That was really good. Any Spider-Man by David Michelini is fantastic. Roger Stern, all good, solid stuff. As far as, Daredevil has had so many great runs. You can just like pretty much pick, your flavor from Frank Miller through Ann Nesenti up to Chip Zdarsky. So there's some great runs there. For Captain America, I really loved Mark Gruenwald's run on the character. That was a fantastic time for the character. There was a lot of adventure stories. It wasn't all, this idea that Captain America is always political. It's not true. A lot of his stories, much like the X-Men, are not always about oppression and bigotry towards mutants. A lot of times they were just going off and having space adventures. So I think those runs are really good. Obviously, I'm a big Claremont X-Men fan. James Robinson's run on Starman I thought was really good. There's a lot of really great runs out there. So yeah, we could probably do a whole show about that.
We probably will. I got another question from Devin Barrios. Who do you want as the next creative team for Amazing Spider-Man, writer and artist after the Spider-Man Beyond arc? This is who I want. I want Chip Zdarsky, Marco Cicchetto to move from Daredevil over to Spider-Man because he's a more important character and more high profile. I don't think that's going to happen. I would definitely take Patrick Gleason as the writer-artist as well. I would be very happy with that. Do you have any suggestions, Aaron? I know you still reading, some of the modern stuff.
I think your recommendations are pretty dead on. Who I could probably easily tell you. It's a longer list of who I don't want to see on the book than people that I want to see on the book. Unfortunately, some of the people that I don't want to see on the book are involved in the Spider-Man Beyond arc. So.
We got Jay Thompson 1327. Is there a way to track sales still? Diamond is not reporting like they used to. So what you're seeing on Comicron and what like the combined sales data from Comicron and ICV2, in a lot of cases, if it's comic shops, it's guessing based on modeling, based off the Comic Hub app. It's not very accurate unless DC makes Lunar, report their sales, and unless Marvel starts making Diamond and eventually Penguin Random House in the next couple months, report that stuff out. If they want reliable sales data, they're going to have to go out to the shops and get enough participation to where they can do something more like the book channel, where they have 85% of all the books sold, they can track. Unless it's never going to be reliable, unfortunately. That's because they're not reporting it anymore.
And the thing is, they don't want to report it. They don't want those numbers getting back to, the people that make the decisions on whether or not to pull the plug on the money. So it's a lot of smoke and mirrors in the comic industry right now. But don't worry, manga's selling great. So the American comic book industry is in fantastic shape. We've
got Daniel Plaza. I will abstain from this one as being a comic YouTuber myself. But you guys are going to have two completely different points of view on this. I think it's going to be interesting. Do you think comic book YouTubers have an influence on the industry? I'll throw it up to you first, Mark. Obviously, you're coming from a crowdfunding perspective. That's the way that you guys do your books. You have a YouTube channel. You don't work quite like I do on here. Do you see that comic book YouTubers can have an influence on your sales as far as comic book crowdfunding?
My answer is a resounding, I don't know, maybe. When it comes to that, I mean, so like Tim and I, we have a channel called the Bunderdome, but it has less than 1,000 viewers. So
just some guy reviewed your comic book,
right?
And sales went through the roof, right?
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, comic book YouTubers, people, but anybody with a large platform, heck, people who have a lot of Twitter followers, like in the tens and 20,000s and 50,000, they can have a huge impact on sales. Anybody with a large platform anywhere can have a huge impact on sales. So it doesn't necessarily specifically have to be YouTube. It's just anybody who has a big audience can have a huge influence on sales. But so yes, in that regard, YouTube can. Personally, if individually, if you have a large platform and you're the creator, or you don't have a large platform and you're the creator, then yeah, that can make a big difference. Just from our experience, we have more people who follow us on Twitter than they do on YouTube. So our experience as creators isn't YouTube heavy; it's Twitter heavy. But the people who do review our books, like Just Some Guy, who do have big YouTube presence, can make a big difference for us. So there you go.
What are your thoughts, Aaron? I know you do ordering for a couple comic shops in California. Do comic book YouTubers have any influence on those orders?
Absolutely, they do. I think that you see guys like Richard Meyer with Diversity in Comics. I think that he kind of started a little bit of a rebellion in the comic book industry because it was people who weren't enjoying the books that they were buying, like kind of had a voice in him critiquing the books. I think comic book reviewers, were pretty instrumental in that. Anybody who was reviewing books at the time kind of shifted the market. I think that it had some negative effects in that it made the powers that be dig their heels in and decide that their customers were horrible bigots and monsters. And so instead of listening to the customer, they really dug into vilifying the customer even more than perhaps they did behind the scenes. I mean, this is something that's been going on in the industry for years, though. When I worked at Boom, and we got the Disney license, and we were plotting that out. The marketing guy used to say that he wanted, if he had his way, he would run a campaign that said to all the old Disney fans that used to read like the Gemstone and the Gladstone books, he would run a marketing campaign that said, "We don't want you." And I always thought that was ridiculously stupid. It's like, obviously you want to do things that are new and exciting and bring in new readers, but you don't want to do that at the expense of the people who've been loyal and who have always been there reading. You have to find that balance of how can we bring in new readers, but also continue to satisfy the core audience that we know is dependable. But that was a sort of short-sighted stuff that was going on back in 2009. So by the time we hit the current era with social media being so huge, it really, the YouTubers really kind of got into a war with the industry professionals, because the industry professionals refused to accept what was happening, which was people aren't enjoying your stories anymore.
MG asks, do you think the problem is that big titles must go on, forcing them to fire out issues to keep it going? There's not really an end point for some of these. Do you think that's a problem, Mark?
That was never a problem in the 70s or the 80s or the 90s when it was the exact same situation where, in the 70s, they knew Spider-Man was going to go on forever, and they knew that in the 80s and they knew that in the 90s. So I don't see why it would suddenly be a problem now to just have the story keep going. Yes, you can oversaturate it. There doesn't need to be 5 or 6 Spider-Man titles, and that was a problem in the 90s. I remember I talk about the Clone Saga a lot, but there was 5 Spider-Man books at the time, and each one had 1 chapter in a 4 or 5 part story arc, so you could never read 2 consecutive issues of Amazing Spider-Man and get a coherent story. That was a problem. So yeah, there is such a thing as oversaturation, but just for the fact that it's an ongoing story that's just going to keep going and going and going, no, that's not a problem. You just got to get good creators and who can tell the next good story in that character's eternal history.
Yeah, listen, your story as a person reading the book continues to go on. So why shouldn't the comic character's story continue?
Yeah.
Jimmy from Comic Works, and if you haven't checked out his channel, what are you thinking? You need to go over there and subscribe there. He's been on the channel before. He's got a lot of really great interviews. He wants to know, Aaron Sparrow, what is your opinion on euthanasia in euthanasia?
I have no idea what this question means.
Well, I think euthanasia is assisted suicide, and I imagine he's...
He's getting around the... maybe that's a taboo word.
I don't know.
There's a joke it was the pilot for Family Guy that actually aired on Cartoon Network's Cartoon Block. I can't remember what it was called, but it's the prototype for Peter is at the pound, and he's about to adopt the prototype for Brian. And Brian's like, "You have to get me out of here, Peter. Like, if you don't adopt me, you'll be responsible for the subsequent euthanasia." And Peter's like, "Ah, geez, there's enough kids over there as it is." Yeah.
I think he's being funny. We got King KDI. What classic stories from Greek, Norse tales up to modern day that do you take inspiration from, if any? Either of you take any inspiration from classic Greek or Norse tales?
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of, even if you've never read those things, a lot of those archetypes exist through later fiction that you've perhaps absorbed. So I think there's definitely inspiration that you take from that. The hero's journey, the Iliad, Odyssey, all those sorts of stories contain superheroic archetypes that have been passed down throughout the ages. So yeah, I definitely think so.
Yeah,
plus, I love that stuff. You give me stories with Thor and Odin and Hercules and the all the gods and the Titans, and that's just all like really fun stuff to draw from.
Yeah, I mean, you go back and everything is so many, like you said, it's like the hero's journey when you break it down, to its elements. But even when you're adapting or taking inspiration from something that's not necessarily a Greek or a Norse myth, that thing may have taken its inspiration from a Greek or a Norse myth. So you're kind of doing it second or third hand. If you're writing a fantasy story that's inspired by, The Legend of Zelda, The Legend of Zelda might have been inspired by Lord of the Rings, and Lord of the Rings might have been inspired by Beowulf. It just goes down this eternal line of inspirations. So yeah, that stuff almost automatically winds up in some of what you're writing.
Damien asks, what is your opinion on the current Swamp Thing miniseries? How do you think it compares to previous runs on the character? I thought Ram V's Future State Swamp Thing was brilliant. Not as good as Alan Moore, obviously, but it was up there. It's something that you can really, just for 2 issues, you get an amazing story. I don't think him writing one story over 10 issues has really worked out for Ram V. The first 2 issues of this miniseries, essentially nothing happens. It doesn't get interesting to the 3rd issue, and I think that's hindering him. I think they probably should have just given him 6 issues to write this damn thing, and I think it would come out better. The art by Mike Perkins has been fantastic. Before we got to it, I thought it wouldn't rival what Moore did, but I thought it would be a nice companion to it. But he's decompressed the story so much that it got boring really fast, and that's too bad because we saw what he could have done in the Future State. Paulo Grossi, what do you think about Marvel keep changing artists on a series that doesn't fit all with the previous one? What do you think about that, Aaron, where they keep switching out the artists? I find it annoying as hell.
I think not being able to keep a book consistent is another thing that is killing their sales. There's nothing worse than when you're following an artist that you like on a story that you like, and the next issue is some fill-in person with an entirely different style. It's really a jarring change, and I definitely think it hurts. I think Marvel's inability to keep people on books is hurting. I think they're keeping writers that they don't need to keep on books, and they can't keep artists that they do need to keep on books. So it's a huge problem.
The recent artist on X-Force was so bad I dropped the series. Gary Brown. All the characters look like they were based off Rocky Dennis. I could not believe it.
Conversely, you're getting really good art on New Mutants, but I dropped it because of the writer. So I mean, it's just.
It is annoying. I mean, not just with Spider-Man, but I remember I was reading IDW's TMNT, and this is when it was still good, back in like the number 80s, the number 90s. But it would go from, someone like Dave Wachter's style, and then it would suddenly, they would swap it out with Bram Revel, whose style is like, it looks like they're just coloring his thumbnails. It's so quick and loose, and yet they don't tessellate. They don't go together. I mean, back when in the early IDW Turtles run, they would have Santaloco on there, but when Santaloco would, need to take a break, they'd get someone like Corey Smith, who drew in a style very similar to Santaloco's. So you could read City Fall and it would go Santaloco Smith, but you wouldn't lose a beat, as a reader when you're reading the books. And that, eventually IDW just stopped giving a shit about it, and they would just throw whatever artist as a fill-in, in the middle of an arc. And it would really just it's like hitting a speed bump at like 90 miles an hour. It would just keep throwing you off.
When we pitched our book, our Justice League Unlimited book to DC, the pitch was for Fulvani to draw an arc and Castellani to draw an arc, and they were going to trade off so that they could both do their best work. But and obviously they're different artists, but the fact that they can both draw in that style would have kept the book looking consistent.
Yeah, it's important. It definitely gets frustrating. New Yaka, when is Jason Aaron getting off the Avengers series? I have good news for you. From what I'm told, what we're getting now is like the best hits from Jason Aaron as he wraps up not only his time on Avengers, but I've heard there's rumors that he might be wrapping up his time with Marvel Comics. It can't come soon enough. His Avengers run has been awful. Interesting enough, Heroes Reborn is probably the best Avengers work he's done in 2 years, and it was okay. It was okay. It was not as bad as I anticipated. So Jason Aaron's run, what I'm told, is wrapping up. I'm hoping Donny Cates takes over. It kind of felt like they were moving towards that, but we do not know that. But Jason Aaron on Avengers has been terrible for the most part for quite some time. All right, this was definitely an Aaron's question. Nerdette from Nerdette's Newsstand. Is cereal soup?
Not unless you're serving it hot.
Is oatmeal soup?
You can have,
or is it a stew?
Soup.
Is oatmeal a soup or a stew? It's served hot and it's very thick.
That is
Aaron.
It doesn't wait. As far as I'm concerned, it's not a stew unless you've got some chunks of beef in it. So.
Oh, is that the requirement for a stew? Okay.
For a stew, yeah, that's my feeling.
Yeah, I mean, you can have cold soup. Borscht, right? Borscht is a cold soup, isn't
nobody
it?
Wants
Gazpacho. Gazpacho is one thing.
Is oatmeal a soup or cereal? Therefore, cereal is soup, according.
It's the root.
It's a root.
I disagree. Cereal's cereal. And oatmeal's like in this weird gray area. It can be both,
oatmeal is transitioning from cereal to soup.
Yeah. It's for people that can't commit to soup but don't want cereal.
Yeah, I mean, like oatmeal is what you eat when it's like, oh, I'm too mature to eat a breakfast cereal, so I'm just going to take the exact same ingredients of oats and just microwave it and make it really hot, so that way I'm still a responsible adult.
It's like people saying hot dogs are sandwiches. Technically, you might be correct, but it's a hot dog.
Yeah, the spirit of it is that it's not a sandwich.
What's a carrot dog? Because I see they're pushing that on us now.
A carrot dog? Is that what you said?
I posted on Twitter the other day an article that was, basically like, the new best thing at your cookout, carrot dogs. And I was like, get the hell off my property.
There is relish and ketchup on carrots. It was
grotesque.
Well, yeah, it was grotesque. Here's the last question that we received on the community tab in the YouTube channel. We'll get a couple of other live questions from the viewers before we wrap this up. What are your opinions on the increase in number of comic books being adapted into audiobooks? I like it. I was listening to the Ben Percy Wolverine stories. I think it's a long night, and I can't remember the name of them, but I think they're very interesting. I know they're doing a Batman one. Unfortunately, that one's being written by David Goyer, which is awful. But I think comic books as audiobooks, I think it works really good. Do you have any opinions on that one, Aaron?
I think that anything that gets comic books out there amongst more normies and maybe draws more people into the industry, the better. Obviously, the problem is that you're probably only going to adapt some of the best comic books into audiobooks, so that if you draw anybody into the comic book industry, they're going to start picking up what's available now and being like, well, this isn't as good as what I was listening to on audiobooks, and then continue just with the audiobooks. So it's one of those things where it's like, if you're going to try to draw people in with something, by getting out into a new market, you need to make sure that when they come in, you are handing them the best material. And right now, the big two are not handing anybody the best material on most of their titles.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that was an increased thing at the moment, but those have been around since I was a kid. I remember I had some cassette tapes that were audio adaptations of the Ninja Turtles Adventures Archie comic, and they weren't the voices from the cartoon, so it threw me off. But eventually, I acclimated to it, and I really liked those as a kid, even if it was just.
I think they make great podcasts.
Say what?
They make great podcasts.
Oh yeah, that too. I mean, they're better than motion comics. I remember that was a big thing for a while in like the 2000s, and motion comics were kind of bad. I'd much rather it be an audiobook where I just have the comic in front of me and I'm just listening to it and going through the pages than whatever kind of weird crap you're doing with the motion comics.
I would love to have an audiobook of my Darkwing run with Jim Cummings.
That would be awesome.
Can you imagine? Oh, so good.
Zemo X2 asks, hey Wes, do you read any manga? And if you do, what is your favorite manga title right now? I do read a little bit of manga. I need to start reading more. If you ever ask me what my favorite manga title is, it's The Promised Neverland. I know, Mark, you read a lot of manga, correct?
I read old people manga, nothing that's currently ongoing. But
God, he's
right
so
now,
old.
I mean, so like right now, anything that's
in the third.
Exactly. I'm looking forward to that. I love Lupin the Third. Thank you very much. There's those hardcover Fist of the North Stars that are coming out. I've got all those on pre-order, and the first volume's in the mail right now. I actually can't wait to read those. But I mean, the stuff that I read is like every time they put out a hardcover of Junji Ito's horror manga, I snatched it up and I read it immediately. I've been reading Shigeru Mizuki's Kitaro manga, which have been great. But I don't read stuff that's like new. Tim, so that's how Tim and I balance each other out. Is he watches a lot of the new anime and reads a lot of the new manga. I watch and I read the old stuff. I read old manga and I watch old anime. So we balance each other out.
So you're
Mark
old school, and he's telling you what the kids are into.
Exactly.
When Mark was a kid, he wore like the little pants that were high risers. He had suspenders on with a white shirt, and when his mom put him down at the hospital, he would talk to a veteran.
That's exactly what it was like. I'm in that you can't tell right now because I'm right there in the middle of it, but I'm actually I've got that Benjamin Button syndrome where I was born an old man. I'm slightly getting younger as I age until I disappear. So right
Mark
now
was born 50 years old.
Exactly.
Thank you very much. We've got it looks like he was keyboard sliding up on the top in letters and numbers. QWERTY 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. As writers, what are your strategies for dealing with the lack of inspiration?
That's a rough question because I don't really have a lack of inspiration.
If you mean like a lack of motivation, because we had that question earlier about if you don't feel like writing, how do you motivate yourself to write? If that's what you mean by inspiration, or if you just mean like if you're just not feeling it, if there's stuff out there that's not inspiring you as a writer, I mean, like Aaron said, I never have that problem. There's lots of different things that I do enjoy. I seek out the things that I enjoy, and I avoid the things.
Yeah, but you have a notebook, right, where you get all the inspiration for your characters. Like, oh, that would be cool to incorporate into this and stuff.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I take notes. All the time for writing even my short stories, my prose stories. I always have a folder on my computer that's just full of Word documents that are just like idea for story. I mean, it's like H.P. Lovecraft had what he called his commonplace book, which got published later on after he died. That was just his notes for like idea for story. I mean, I keep track of that stuff all the time. I try never to let an idea get away from me.
Awesome, and thank you very much. AL says, "Isn't Euthanasia a UK punk band?" How would I know? I listen to country music and I live in the Philippines.
Yeah, that's not my wheelhouse. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
I can't be into everything that everybody's into. I'm sorry.
I watch Rocky and Bullwinkle.
I do know that Jimmy from Comic Works is obsessed with Doctor Who, so there's a chance that he's into UK punk bands as well. It would make sense. We've got Alejandro Mirabal with the $5 super chat. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Really appreciate that. We got any more questions as we're wrapping it down? We got through all the questions that were put up in the community tabs. I had to skip down because I was like 45 minutes from the actual live chat. So I do.
By the way, Long Harbor by Mirabelle is now available at Iconic Comics. Just putting that out there.
Go to iconiccomics.com. It's available. Beta of the Night asks, Aaron, if a hot dog is a sandwich, is a taco one too?
Does a tortilla count? Or is it a wrap? Is it a fried wrap?
What's a falafel? Oh my god! What category does that fit into?
You're blowing my mind here.
Why do we? Here's my question. Why do we have to define everything? Why can't we just let things be what they are?
It's just food.
It's a Mexican hero, right? I love tacos. That's one of the few things I can actually cook here in the Philippines that isn't completely bastardized because of the ingredients I have.
I love Tex-Mex.
You'll know I'm getting married when I tell you that I found a woman that I love more than tacos.
Oh, yeah, that's not happening.
There is no such thing. I'm sorry. I can't find a taco that's better than a woman. I love Tex-Mex. People are like, but that's not authentic Mexican. Like, yeah, I know. We're America. We took authentic Mexican and we made it better.
That's the same thing we did with the croissant when we made it a croissant sandwich.
Yeah, right?
I can prove that one.
America. Independence Day. America. F yeah.
Yeah, especially when Burger King did it. You know what I'm saying? Mass produced that bad boy. How do you adapt a visual medium into an audio one? Do you guys know?
Heck if I know. I've never done
I think you just re-script it, right?
Yeah, you just got to re-script it. You got to write it like a novel.
Yeah, you got to have the descriptions. Or in the audio like podcasts that I listen to, there are a lot of sound effects that you get that you can incorporate in, so you don't have to describe everything that's happening.
That creaking door sound effect that everybody uses.
Yeah, exactly.
There's one creaking door. We're like, yep, that's it. Oh, that's the perfect one. It's a wrap. Don't do any more.
There's a channel on YouTube I really like called Black Dog Chronicles, and he just does audio versions of short horror stories, but he adds sound effects and a light amount of music to add atmosphere. But he otherwise reads the prose exactly as it was written, and it ends up working really well. I suggest following him, Black Dog Chronicles. The stuff is good.
All right, Comic Quirks with Jimmy, $2 super chat. Thank you. Some would say Doctor Who. Yeah, we're not talking about it, but yes, I did mention that.
No, I'll talk. I love Doctor Who. I'll talk about it. You know, Doctor Who and his whimsical companions like Hermione Granger and Queen Elizabeth. You know, just all. Oh, look at me! I'm Doctor Who. Oh, yeah, I know a lot about Doctor Who.
Oh, my favorite episode of Doctor Who is where the parrot's dead and they're trying to sell it anyway. That one's great.
I like it when Doctor Who is like pretends to be a nanny so he can take care of his family, his kids.
I like when Doctor Who has Mr. Bean on it.
Pop size with $20. I'm not sure what SEK is. Whatever the denomination is. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. A
it's
crossover
on it.
you would love to read. What kind of crossover would you love to read, Mark?
A crossover that I've enjoyed the Ninja Turtles crossovers with the DC universe, like Batman and stuff, but we still haven't gotten the Ninja Turtles Daredevil crossover that we've been needing to get since day one.
Absolutely.
One day we got to get that crossover. Oh, by the way, Williams III has been posting all this art from a Ninja Turtles He-Man crossover that was in production but got canceled. And his art looks fantastic. I'd kind of love to see how that would have turned out. SEK
is Swedish Crota? So perhaps that's what it is. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. What kind of crossover would you like, Aaron?
Well, first of all, SEK's got Nightcrawler as his avatar, so points there.
It's pretty dope.
Yeah, my favorite X-Men. You know what crossover I'd love to see is He-Man versus the Marvel Universe.
Just slaughtering everybody.
I'd like to write that. Like that's this thing. Any crossover that I want to see is like one that I want to write. So
yeah. We've gotten He-Man versus the DC universe several times. It's like Ninja Turtles. We've gotten them versus Batman, but still no Marvel crossover. What's going on, Marvel? Stop bogarting them crossovers. You must be hard to work with.
I like to approach comics the way that I think Donny Cates does, which is Donny Cates' books feel like he just has a bunch of action figures and he's just banging.
Yes, fan service.
Yeah, in interesting, cool ways. But ways that you're like, oh wow, that's interesting. I didn't think of that. That'd be kind of a cool, neat thing. So I think, I think any kind of crossover like comes from there. Like, as far as like action figure collecting, the whole reason I got into that is because I'm like, look, I can cross over all these things that I love. I've got 6-inch G.I. Joes. I've got He-Man. I've got, Marvel Universe. I've got DC Universe. I've got some horror icons, your Michael Myers and your Freddy's and your Jasons. I've got Mortal Kombat. I can mix all this together in my mind.
As long as you're having fun with it. You know what I got to pick up and trade? Because I want to read it, because every single panel that I've seen posted on social media just looks so fun and funny. I want to read the Transformers My Little Pony crossover that IDW published. That just looks really, really funny. I want to check that one out. It just looks like the people making that book had a great time with it. When Boom did their Ninja Turtles Power Rangers crossover, it was one of the best Turtles comics that's come out in years. It was just a lot of fun. It didn't matter if it was gratuitous and didn't make any sense. We got the Turtle Rangers out of it. That was a lot of fun. I mean, you can tell the people writing it are having fun with the opportunity, and that makes a great book, great crossover.
I would like to see G.I. Joe versus Jurassic Park.
Fuck yeah. I know real quick, but everyone's saying that, you know what, Fast and the Furious, the next one just needs to be a crossover with Jurassic World. And all of a sudden we got Dom and The Rock fighting dinosaurs and T-Rexes with their sports cars. Like, you know what? That would get my butt in the theater. I would watch that.
Because you know what dinosaurs can't defeat? Family.
Yeah. So thank you very much to Pope Size for supporting the channel. Jorge El Nina Espinoza, what's the worst thing to happen to Superman? Brian Michael Bendis.
Yes, absolutely. Brian Michael Bendis.
The Butterdome. So Tim Lim, the artist that works with Mark Pellegrini. Wes, what do you think of ordering spaghetti at McDonald's in the Philippines? I think that my 2-year-old is a very picky eater, and he happens to like McDonald's spaghetti if you get extra sauce on it. So it's something that I do quite often. I don't like it. They put hot dogs in spaghetti. That's not my thing, baby. That's not going to be my spaghetti, but my 2-year-old loves it. So it's just something you got to do.
That sounds like, honestly, that is 4-year-olds' ideal cuisine. I got to commend them. Hot dogs in spaghetti at a hamburger restaurant. That's like every 4-year-old's dream come true. So good for them.
And if you get a Happy Meal, that's so much.
Yep. Right now we can get the Minions characters. So we got Dion, Dominic Powell. Aaron, what happened to mentorship between veterans of the comic industry and the New Bloods? What happened there? Why is there no mentorship?
It turns out all the mentors were sex pests.
Wah, wah, wah.
That's the sad answer. I don't know because as an editor, that is supposed to be your job is working, especially if you're working with new talent. Is you're supposed to put them through the paces and teach them the ropes and make their story stronger. Everything that you want to do as an editor is to prop your creatives up to deliver the best possible product that they can, and they're not always going to agree with you on that. But hopefully, at the end of the day, you put out something that later they look back on and they go, you know what, that was the right call. So I don't know what happened. I think that we've entered into a period where editors are overworked. I think that they don't get paid a lot and they have a lot of books dumped on their plate, especially in places like Marvel, where there's just so many books coming out and none of it matters. It's just get something on the shelf. It doesn't matter if it's good, doesn't matter if it makes sense, doesn't matter if the writer's talented, doesn't matter if the artist is good. We just need to occupy space on shelves so that we can go back to Disney and say, look, our numbers are really good. Look at how many units we moved. We didn't lose any money. Well, you lost readers, but you're choking shops with unsold product. And until shops kind of wise up and tell Marvel, no, we're not, you put out a book like Moon Knight, we're not dealing with 25 different covers on a book like Moon Knight. Get out of here. I think overworked is a lot of it. I think that you've got a lot of people coming in who just don't have the talent. You're bringing in younger and younger people. They don't have life experience. They don't have the editorial experience behind them to really help their writers. So I think it's a lot of different factors, but most of it I think is just trying to squeeze too much out of people.
Jimmy from Comics Quirks, thank you so much for supporting the channel. I hate you. Put some respect on Doctor Who. That must be going for you, Mark. That ain't me.
No, that was me.
I don't.
That was
What
Aaron?
the fuck is Doctor Who? I don't know anything about Doctor Who.
No, listen, I'll say right now, I respect the legacy of Doctor Who. I don't know a lot about it. I've never really been somebody who's watched it. I've seen a few episodes here and there. I think that there's some interesting ideas there. I think there's definitely they've made some action figures that I really love and that I have in my collection that I know nothing about. There's a lady who's just skin. She's just face skin strung between a screen. And I bought that figure because I was like, that is weird, and I want it.
Sounds like my grandma. All face skin.
But yeah, I don't know a lot about it, and it seems kind of like insurmountable to jump in. Like there's just so much lore that it's a little bit intimidating. So, but I do kid it. I always make fun, and I always try to give like the approximation of the American who knows nothing about Doctor Who trying
I'm Doctor Who.
say what it's about through osmosis.
So Nerdette's Newsstand, happy 4th of July. Well, happy 4th of July. Happy Independence Day. Thank you so much for the questions. We decided that soup, they can say what they want on the Googles. They can say that cereal soup. It's not. Cereal, but oatmeal is for people transitioning from cereal to soup. It's in the middle. That's what we came up with. We got any other questions here?
Nerdette, I've watched your channel. I enjoy it.
There you go. Yeah.
You should come on. You should come on with us sometime. And
I've invited her a couple times. She never wants to show up. She doesn't like. She likes visiting the channel. I don't think she wants to be a guest.
No, I think it'd be interesting to have her on and get get some opinions that aren't coming from the sausage fest that is us three.
Dude, do you know how many women I've invited that have YouTube channels or comic writers or have opinions on comics? None of them will show up on my show. Am I intimidating? Am I a jerk? I know I'm a jerk. I'll be nice, I promise. Nobody wants to come on the channel.
This is ending on a sad note.
Have you guys seen a Wendy's in Japan? Their stuff is crazy.
I have not, but tell me more.
Yeah, I haven't. I've seen a KFC in Korea. That was pretty dope. When I was in Korea, I saw a lady eat a Subway sub with chopsticks.
Why?
What? Mind blown. She ate it like it was a salad. I was like, what do you think? That's an enormous crouton? What are you doing?
Did she just pick off the bread? Like pick off pieces of bread?
Yes, she was eating the bread and the cheese and meat all individually.
The hell? That's like that Seinfeld episode where Elaine's boss eats a Snickers bar with a fork and a knife. And you're like, what are you doing?
So when you would go to the commissary in Korea, the grocery store on base, that little place, there was a deli. They would make you sandwiches, but it was, foreign nationals, the Koreans, they would run it, and you would have to tell them to make your sandwich. They didn't understand that you have to stack your sandwich. Like they would leave it open and they would try to stuff the bread rather than stack it. So you would get like mayonnaise in the middle rather than touching the cheese and the bread where you get, you want to get a little mix in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess it's the same way where people come to America and we have our own versions of their ethnic dishes from their countries, and they say we do it wrong. So, turnabout's fair play. But you should see, like, you want to see crazy, try a Japanese Pizza Hut. Like, what they do to pizzas over there should be a crime. Hey, you want a shrimp and mayonnaise and corn pizza? That's like the most popular pizza at Japanese Pizza Hut. And it sounds like vomit, but they love it over there.
I mean, I'd try it because I'd be like, what the hell? I hate this. What the?
Maybe it's actually good, and I just don't understand it. Oh, nope, wait, it's terrible. I'm going to go throw up real quick. Excuse me.
If you want to talk about the science of sandwiches, Wes, you need to have Silvani on because there is no subject he's more passionate about than how you properly build.
Ooh, I'd love to listen to that because there is like a specific, like how you make a sandwich. I went to a deli once that was run by people who I don't know what country they were from, but Wes just disappeared. He went to go make a sandwich, I think. But I ordered a salami sandwich, and they put mayonnaise on it instead of mustard. And I was like, what? You don't put mayonnaise on a salami sandwich? I shouldn't have to articulate that. But yes, there is a science to making sandwiches.
I'd eat mayonnaise on a salami sandwich. I can roll.
That's weird. When I was a little kid, I used to eat bologna sandwiches with ketchup on them instead of mustard. And I think about that now, how gross that was.
When I was a kid, we were super poor because my mom spent all of the money on herself. anything she made. So we were very neglected, and I remember making bologna cups on the stove, which was like you would just get what you had in the fridge, which was basically like a package of bologna, and then you'd go through the condiments, and you'd be like, well, we have cinnamon. So you just put the bologna on the burner, and as it would cook, it would kind of curl up into a cup, and then you would sprinkle cinnamon in it, and you're like, well, this is my lunch.
Jesus, I think back like the cast iron stomach I had as a little kid because I just ate like. I don't know. It's like when you're a little kid, you don't know any better. No one has gotten in your way and told you how to make a sandwich, what's the right way or the wrong way to eat food. So yeah, if you want cinnamon on bologna or if you want ketchup on bologna, hey, I don't see any cops around. No one's going to stop you. No one's telling you you're doing your bologna wrong.
You get arrested by the bologna police.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
I went to prison for bologna crimes.
Special ops squad is going to drop you.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, the damn Wienermobile pulls up in your driveway with like the sirens going off. And you're like,
go, go!
Yeah. They repel down from a blimp that's shaped like a hot dog. Yeah.
We need to write a story, Mark, where people are being arrested for bologna pre-crime.
Bologna pre. Oh God, it's like Minority Report, but for bologna. I think we scared Wes off. He's like, all right, I've had enough of this. I'm out of here. You guys can talk about bologna for as long as you want.
He's too broken up about no women wanting to come and talk on the channel, and he went off to weep in tears.
Oh, Tim just said in the chat that he used to eat marshmallow and chocolate sandwiches. Now, that almost sounds like it could work. But that's, like I don't know.
S'more, but was he using regular bread, or you kind of?
Yeah, I guess a s'more does count as a marshmallow and chocolate sandwich. It's a
s'more sandwich. There you go, chat. How about that?
Yeah, is an Oreo a sandwich? It's a sandwich cookie. Is an EL fudge a sandwich? Yeah, that's what I thought. Hush mode.
Without Wes to direct us, what's the next thing we move on to? We've spent a good time on sandwiches here.
You people in the chat could be asking us any question you want right now, but instead you're telling us about the Wiener Cop. Sounds suspicious.
I used to have it's still up. I just don't update it anymore because I got rid of all my Legos. But for a while, after the Lego movie, I got super into Lego, and I was building sets, and I was doing these little joke cartoons using Legos on Instagram. It was called BrickBot. And I had they had the guy who's in the hot dog costume, and then they had like a unicorn. And so I just put them both on cop bodies, and I was doing a bit called Hot Dog and Unicorn. They're cops. It was like the cop show with those two, and did some ridiculous cartoons with those. They were going to be recurring characters until I realized that I would have to build so many Lego sets to do everything I wanted to do, and I did not have the room for it.
Well, the room and just Legos. I don't know what happened. About what year was it when Legos went from like affordable to astronomically expensive? Like when was that shift?
They got a new. From what I read, and take this with a grain of salt because I don't remember where I read it, but at the time, I read that they had a new CEO come in, and he was examining the company from top to bottom, and he asked them, "Well, how much does it cost us? Like, what's the breakdown of the cost on each brick?" And they had no idea, like that. No one had ever thought to figure that out. And so when they figured it out, he was like, yeah, we're actually losing money on most of our sets. And the only reason that you haven't felt it is because Legos are so popular that there's always money coming in, but it's not sustainable. So they had to go back to the drawing board and figure out what their costs were per set, break it down brick by brick. And that's when things got more expensive.
Oh, great. So basically the Lego IRS came in and did a Lego audit and ruined it for everybody.
Apparently it was just people having fun. And then they finally got somebody in who understood math and was like, wait a minute.
We've been taking advantage of Lego for too long. Now they got to get serious.
Yep.
Well, that probably also coincided with what their patents on their brick system expired, so then everybody could make their own knockoff Legos that could interact with the legit Legos, and I guess that probably flooded the market.
Okay, we got some good questions coming in here. Let's see. Do either of us collect toys? Yes, I absolutely do. Do I want to hang out with Tim and Mark at Disney World in November? Hell yeah. Yeah, send me the details. I would love to do that. I'm already going to be in New Jersey in November because I'm going to Legions Con. So if the timing works out, I could just jump over from there. So
yeah,
that would
if
be
you could make it down to, because we have a great time at Disney World in November. We go almost every year. So yeah, if you could find a way to get down to Florida in November and chill with us, would be great.
yeah, it would be the first actually the first time I've met either of you guys face to face.
It feels like we know you already, Aaron. And then you're going to show up and you're going to be a chick, and we're going to be like, what the? You, a girl.
I'm the bearded lady. I feel pretty. I like me. So,
From Freaked. Nice, a Freaked.
yeah,
reference.
thank you. Oh my God, no one knows that movie. It's just me and my friend Marie. Like we talk about that movie, and it's like nobody knows what we're talking about.
I'll have you know that I've seen every film with Bobcat Goldthwait in it. Thank you very much.
That is
All right.
wow.
Sorry, I disappeared. We lost electricity for a second.
Wait, George Alnini Espinosa says, Aaron, do you have a family? I try not to talk about it because, coming on Wes's channel, you make a lot of enemies, so I don't want my family kidnapped and put in danger. But, I have family. I'm not married. I don't have any kids. But I have a stepdad who I adore. I've got, brother and sister. I have, aunts and uncles, all that stuff. Yeah, so I have family. And then, and I've made my own family out of friends that are loyal and true blue and are ride or die. So, yeah, absolutely. Ride or die, family.
You made that wonderful family in the street racing underground circuit. Yeah, we know all.
Yeah, like you do. And now we're pulling off international jewel heists and
fighting cyborgs.
Yeah, fighting cyborgs.
All right, fellas, did you answer the Chuck Skills question? What's your favorite '90s gimmick cover?
Oh no, was that up there this whole time? We didn't notice it. Oh.
Yeah, no,
I just came back
when Wes disappeared because we were like, well, what do we do now? And then we
talked about baloney for 10 minutes.
We did it while you were gone. We had a baloney conversation. So, okay, so let's see. The question was what?
What's your favorite '90s gimmick cover? This
Rub
was
the
Venom,
Blood.
Lethal Protector's #1 red foil cover.
No, I'm going to say Rub the Blood because it was just so ridiculous. Blood Strike. It had a thermo, graphic heat cover where like they had blood splatter on it, and when you rubbed it, it would go away or come back.
I didn't have that one. No, I never saw that one. That's crazy. Well, I can think of the two that. So the one that I went nuts for as a kid, and it's the only time I got every issue in an event series for X-Men, was Fatal Attractions, because it had that hologram card that was embedded on the cover, and I got every installment of Fatal Attractions. And it was the only one of those X crossover events from the 90s that I got every chapter in, but it was because of that cover. But I think that the coolest one was it Too Much Coffee Man that did the bullet hole cover, where he and it wasn't just the cover; it was like every page was the art was laid out around the bullet hole that was shot through every single copy of Too Much Coffee Man. I think it was Too Much Coffee Man. Like that was or maybe it was Milk and Cheese. I don't know. But I thought that was the coolest idea.
I'll tell you if you guys want some behind the scenes trivia on how some of those covers came about. I know of one in particular. At Tokyo Pop, I worked with Rob Tokar, who was the Spider-Man editor at the time that Web of Spider-Man 100 came out. And you guys may remember that was the debut of Spider-Man's web armor, which has been made in action figure form. It's appeared in cartoons now. But the edict came down that we needed something special for Web of Spider-Man. So write a story where Peter builds an Iron Man suit for himself. And Rob, as the editor, this is back when editors cared. This is back when editors knew their stuff. Rob Tokar is one of the most professional people I've ever worked with in the industry. He's fantastic. But he said, it doesn't make any sense. Peter is not an engineer. Peter is a chemist. So he basically said, okay, well, we're going to do this armor because we have to. But it's going to be based on his web shooters. He has to make this, it has to be chemistry that brings this armor about. So the writers did it. It appeared in that one issue. It had the great hollow foil or like kind of mirrored armor cover made for that issue because that was what it was about. It was about getting a special cover out there for people to buy. And the story came second. But Rob made it work. He made it work in the context of the story. And he made sure that the armor was destroyed by the end of the issue because he never wanted it used again.
All right. AL says, I eat potato chips with chopsticks.
That's a strange thing to do. You're weird, Al. You're weird.
Mind blown. It happens. Evil Black Cat are milkshake slushies. No, I think slushy has to have ice. Although here in the Philippines, if you buy a milkshake, it's likely to be ice with like chocolate syrup.
Oh, Tim loves that shit. When he goes to Epcot, he always gets one of those from the Japanese pavilion. I can't recall what they're called. but like the Japanese have their special way of making like what's the big weird Filipino
Halo halo.
Halo halo. Thank you. Okay, I'm
It's
sorry, I wasn't
delicious.
thinking the Japanese one. Yeah, there's a halo halo stand in North Little Rock that Tim goes to, and it looks like somebody just like emptied all the leftovers in the fridge and threw it on a big pile of ice. It's ridiculous. It's got cornflakes and it's got gummy bears and
Cornflakes are the best
Twizzlers and
part.
stuff.
It's got some crunch in there.
It's got the
Yeah,
same
it's like-
philosophy as Menudo. Just throw that in there.
We have menudo too, but we don't put it in our halo halo. Come on, that's crazy.
Don't
But it's
be
not
ridiculous.
gummy bears; they're like little jelly things.
Or like gumdrops, like these weird things that you just put on. It's like whatever you got in the pantry and in the fridge, you just throw it on the ice. It's crazy.
One of my dreams is to get. Just speaking of gummy bears, one of my dreams is to get Christopher Walken to read the Gummy Bears song.
Gummy bears bouncing here,
gummy
there, and
You're a gummy bear.
everywhere.
A high adventure that's beyond compare. They are the Gummy Bears.
This is a fortuitous question here from Chuck Skills. Do either of you collect toys? It just so
Well,
happens
I'm
Aaron
kidding.
does collect toys. He deals in 5 figures a week. And we have a toy video coming up. I believe it's on Tuesday. And the plan, Aaron, is that we're going to do a weekly toy video, right?
Yeah, that's the plan.
I'm pretty much. I think I'm gonna have to learn how to eat plastic because I keep spending all my grocery money on pre-ordering NECA toys. Now NECA's stuff is great. I love their Ultimate Horror line, but they got to do something about making all their Ninja Turtle stuff Walmart or Target exclusives because God, that stuff is so hard to find. Because scalpers keep raiding it, and that stuff doesn't last like 2 minutes on the shelf. I've seen videos of the NECA ambassadors taking their social media photos of the full like NECA shelves at Target, and then emptying the shelves of all the Ninja Turtle exclusives and taking them up and ringing them up and buying them. It's like it's impossible. No one stands a chance to get this stuff, and yet I keep going back for more pain and suffering anyway.
Yeah, no, NECA's trying. As far as your regular NECA purchases, your horror purchases, Mark, let me know. Let me know where you're buying that because I'll bet you I can do you better.
Ooh, all right then. I'm gonna hit you up behind the scenes for a little of that Puppet Master action.
So if you're interested in toys, we got the video coming up, and then there's going to be a segment every week called five figures a week.
I'll tell you right now, just as I've been sitting here doing this show, I have been playing with a Storm Collectibles E-Honda, a Storm Collectibles Kazuya from Tekken, 2 Mezco Rumble Society figures, and a custom figure of the Rose from Spider-Man that I'm making. Oh, and
All right,
a custom
go.
quick.
Oh, you want to know the dumbest thing I ever did toy related in my entire life is I had a complete run of the Soda Street Fighter toys, like the first 4 waves. They were all loose, but they had all their accessories and they're all in perfect condition. And when I moved in 2012, I gave them away to a friend of mine because I couldn't take all my toys with me. And those things, even loose, go for like $100 a piece now. Oh my God!
I'll tell you something about that. When I when those were coming out, I worked at ToyRocket.com and I was their product manager and the website manager and everything. And I did all the ordering. And we had a deal with Soda because we bought so much that whenever they had any kind of financial problems, they would dump figures to us for super cheap because we would just buy everything. And so, we'd buy like, 50, 60, $100,000 worth of toys at a time. But it would be largely those Street Fighter figures, and we would get them for $2 a piece.
Oh my God! They go for a fortune now.
Yeah, like if I would have invested in that, if I would have just got a storage unit and filled it with $2 Street Fighter figures, I'd be Pele right now. I'd be rolling.
You could retire at 39, just like West here.
Hey, I'm in the Philippines for a reason.
Yeah.
So COVID Kev asks, are there any humor books out there, and are you guys writing any? Common America is not really a humor book.
It's got humor in it, so we always add jokes to Common America and Black Ops. But it's the same thing like the Spider-Man and X-Men comics we read as kids in the 90s, was that there would be quips, there'd be humor in it, but there was a time and place for jokes, and then there was a time and place for drama and action. We had a kind of something of everything in our book. So we do try to keep the dialogue fun and witty, but we also know when it's time to get serious, we get serious in the book.
All right, New Dawn Horizon. What do you know about narrative structure? What do you know about that, Mark? I'm sorry, Aaron.
What do I know about anything? what am I doing on here? You found me out. I'm a fraud.
Ask him about baloney. He knows a lot about that.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a very broad question, so I'm not sure what it is. That
We've got
like.
a couple of these questions in here. We got Justice for All 1983. What advice do you have to push past writer's block? We've actually covered that earlier in the thing. You might want to go back to the replay on that. And then there's another question.
I'll give another quick answer on that, just because I didn't really get in on that one. For me, what works with writer's block, I find that once I am writing, I don't have writer's block. I find that the block is actually forcing yourself to sit down in front of the computer and start writing when you don't feel like it. If you can get past that obstacle and you can just start to use that, force yourself to sit down and just start to use that muscle and start writing, I think that eventually the block, you get past it and it starts to flow. So that's my advice. It works for me. I hope that it works for you.
He had a follow-up question. What is your method for planning out your story? We've done like 14 lessons prior to this, and that was covered in it. If you go into the there's a playlist on the YouTube channel called Comic Book Writing. If you start like at the very beginning, we go through like the very basics on how to map up your story, outlining, and getting everything ready, and then we get into all the more creative stuff afterwards. So that's already actually been covered. It got covered for like an hour and 20 minutes. So there's like almost 20 hours worth of comic writing tips and coverage as far as those lessons go. Tabia Smoker, what's your favorite Marvel and DC character? Favorite Marvel character is going to be it's oh my goodness, it's not Daredevil, freaking Nightcrawler. And my favorite DC character, it was Hal Jordan. I think I'm a Dick Grayson guy now. I'm a Dick guy.
So Marvel and DC. All right. So Marvel, it's going to be Ghost Rider, specifically the Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider, but I also like Danny Ketch because he's the one that I grew up with. And for DC, it's tie between Swamp Thing and Batman. I think I like Swamp Thing more as a character, but I got way more Batman comics in my collection, so it's up in the air. But I like Swamp Thing a heck of a lot.
My favorite character at Marvel is Captain America. He just slightly edges out Nightcrawler. Unfortunately, there hasn't been a good Captain America story in years and years and years, or a good Captain America writer in years and years and years. So I've kind of been left out in the cold in that regard. As far as DC goes, I'm also a big Nightwing fan. I don't know. I just he's always appealed to me on multiple levels. I've always liked his morality. He's had really good talent on him, in the past. I think that Chuck Dixon's run was phenomenal and really made me love that character, and that's just always kind of stuck with me.
Andrew Wyatt, what's the word on Vanish? Any new details? That's the new series from Donnie Cates and Ryan Stegman. No new details that I know of. What's y'all's favorite crowdfunding books? I'm gonna go with Common America and Black Ops. I'm actually in Black Ops itself, so that one was pretty dope.
Yeah, we greased the wheels for you there. We greased your palm. Like, we'll give you a cameo if you say you like our terrible comics. No. So right now, I mean, the stuff that I've been supporting on crowdfunding is obviously, I mentioned earlier, I love Tug Tentpole's Earthworm Jim books. Volume 2 came out, and it's still a really good read. And the craftsmanship on those hardcovers is beautiful. Like everything we do on Black Ops and Common America, we're just trying to keep up with what Doug's doing. I also picked up Forsaken Gods by Luke Weber, and that's fulfilling right now. I can't wait to read it. His art's great. His cartoons are great. He's a storyboard artist. And also one that I'm really looking forward to, it's from Japan, called Little Nuns by the artist. Their name is Diva, and it's a pantomime comic about these cute nuns who just do random stuff every day. And it's just a really cute, really sweet, really normal comic. It's a web comic that you can follow on Twitter, but they're just collected all the comics and put them in a paperback collection, and I ordered that, and I can't wait for that to show up.
How about you, Mark? You got any favorite crowdfunding books?
Oh, me? I say Mark just went.
I'm sorry, Aaron. You guys look the same.
Mark, go again. Your answer was inadequate, and we need to know more.
You didn't believe me, Mark. I don't believe you. Tell me what your real
Aaron. Oh, my goodness.
Well, obviously, I'm gonna plug Mark's book. Common America is a lot of fun. I like Black Ops as well. Common America edges it out just a little bit for me. I don't know why. I haven't actually sat down to think about like why that is, but I think I just enjoy that kind of superhero universe that they're crafting. and I'm looking forward to the crossover. Which reminds me, how many days left on that, Mark?
It ended this morning.
Damn
It'll
it!
be going up on Indiegogo in a couple.
Yeah, in a couple weeks. Yep. So we'll have a limited run on Indiegogo. It won't be 60 days like the Kickstarter was. It'll probably be, if not 1 month, it'll probably be maybe like 2 or 3 weeks. So we'll have another round.
So I still have a shot, is what you're telling me.
That's
Absolutely.
right. You got one more chance. Make it count.
thought it ended tomorrow. That's why I was like, go ahead, plug it. Like, I was like, I still have time. Go ahead, plug it, and then I'll go order mine when we get off the thing here. Damn it. Yeah, so I enjoyed that. I also enjoyed the Earthworm Jim books. I'm a big fan of Earthworm Jim, and I think Doug's done a lot of fun things with that character. Let's see, what other I recently got Only Death Can Save Us by Russ Leach, and that was fun. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff out there. I've got a lot of stuff I'm still waiting on. I got Starblades recently, and I wanted to review it, but Wes was like, no, I'm not letting you review that.
Ooh, I forgot to mention Soul Finder by Doug Ernst. Volume 2 came out recently, and that's been really good. But it's not a crowdfund one anymore. He went direct to Iconic Comics. People just buy their copies straight from the site. So I guess it doesn't count as a crowdfund anymore. But it's an indie book I've been enjoying.
It got its start there, though. Like that's what got the cash together to launch it. And yeah, the Soul Finder is really good. But you know what? If you guys know good crowdfunded books, tell us ones that you enjoy. Hit me up on Twitter and let me know, because I love supporting indie books that if I look at it and it appeals to me, I'll back your project, or I'll back your friend's project. It's just got to be something that looks cool, it's got good art, and intrigues me in some way.
Tim asked, Wes, you like Hollow Hollow? I love Hollow Hollow. It's absolutely delicious. And Mark is a moron for not trying some with you. Like, I don't know.
Oh man,
there's
I love
cornflakes in
trash
my
on
dessert.
ice.
It's delicious.
Is Hollow Hollow just shave ice?
No, it's shaved ice with condensed milk and like some jellies, and there's normally some banana puree in there, a little bit of ube ice cream, and there's also normally beans.
Cornflakes and cinnamon
Cornflakes for
sticks
crunch on the
and
top.
just
Yes, it's delicious.
Weird crap. Like everything in the pantry, they just throw it on top of the ice. Like, oh boy, I love eating leftovers on shaved ice.
Uncultured swine. That's what I call you, sir. Tavia, Wes, do you like Mass Effect? Nope, I don't really get to play games. Okay, here you go, Aaron. Our Todd McFarlane toys is actually cool. We talk about that in the video. Do you want to go quick here?
Yeah, I'll say really quick. Todd, kind of changed the industry when he got into the game by giving us toys that were better sculpted. Unfortunately, his early toys were really kind of shoddily constructed and fell apart very easily. They broke very easily. NECA kind of had the same problem when they started out. But, Todd is absolutely killing it right now. His DC Multiverse stuff is good. The Mortal Kombat figures are good. His anime figures from like My Hero are really nice. They're posable. He got past the point of just making statues and calling them action figures. And now he's got some of the best stuff on the market. And it's pretty much all unique sculpts, as opposed to what you're getting from the big toy companies. So yeah, definitely say check out. If you haven't checked out a Todd toy in a while, a McFarlane toy, go give it a shot.
Could you do a comic writing on designing a hero costume? We're going to do that, but I need to bring in an actual artist on board. We're going to do, I think, with Tim or perhaps Silvani. And we're definitely going to do one on creating character designs. I'm sorry, we're almost at like 2 hours here, and it's like 3 a.m. in the morning. I do want to say thank you very much to everybody. I had a lot of fun answering all these questions. I think we probably got through about 80 questions during this, so that was a good time. I will let Mark. You got any last words? Any alibis you'd like to say before we wrap this up?
I just want everybody to have a great 4th. I want to thank everyone who backed Black Ops X Common America, or just shared it, or just supported it, or just gave us positive reinforcement. We appreciate everyone, and we're going to start fulfilling as soon as the funds clear from Kickstarter, which usually takes a couple weeks. But for the love of Pete, if you did back it on Kickstarter, remember, Kickstarter requires you to fill out a survey before they will ship your copy. They call it a survey when all it really is just a confirmation of your address and your payment. They send that to you via email, or if you don't get the email, just log into Kickstarter, go to your profile, and you'll see the list of surveys there. And just fill out the survey, confirm your address, or you won't get your book. So just remember to do that, please. And that's all I got to say.
All right, Mark, you got any? I'm sorry.
You're doing it again.
I'm not. That was just mess with you guys. You got any final words, Aaron?
Yeah, I'm just Mark II Electric Boogaloo. Tim says that coming on with Silvani and talking about designing costumes would be a lot of fun. Something a lot of people don't know because I haven't shown them off yet. Tim was generous enough to design a couple of characters for me for a crowdfunded book that I want to do, and they look absolutely fantastic. He designed the main villain for me, and I could not be happier with it. So I'm really excited to eventually get that out there where you guys can see it.
Well, that will do it, folks. Like I said, Tuesday, we're going to have, who are we having? We're having Aaron on the channel. We're going to talk about comics. I believe also Tuesday afternoon, because there's no DC stuff to review this week, Mark's also going to join me. We're going to talk about some of the people using modern-day story events as the backbone of their comic stories and how it's been failing. So we've got more Mark and more Aaron on the channel this week, and we should be doing more comic book toys and superhero toy stuff in the future as well. Thank you all very much. Happy 4th of July. I hope you enjoy your Independence Day. If you're not in America, if you're in Canada, happy Canada Day. And if you're throughout the world, thank you for joining us. We had a lot of fun here, and we'll see you next week.
See you.